So, welcome everybody to At-Home Songwriting. And tonight is, I wanted to do something special. A lot of you have reached out and said you want to learn more about production and about recording your music. And I know a lot about production, but I don't necessarily enjoy teaching it very much. So, I like to focus on the songwriting side of things. So, Reagan had reached out to me and said he's working on some things. And I was like, you know what, would you want to come and present to my group because we have a need for, learning production? Because I think in today's world, I think the world of electronic recording, the world of DAWs, the world of, releasing your own music, songwriting, recording, production, everything is sort of within the same sort of realm at this point. Everything can kind of be a tool for your songwriting and getting your music out to the world. So tonight, our special guest from Orpheus Audio Academy is Reagan Ramm, and Reagan is here to teach us a little bit about music production for songwriters. So Reagan, maybe introduce yourself, tell us where you're located, and a little bit more about your experience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Chad. It's always great when we get to talk music together. I live in Southwest Florida now. I'm originally from Central Ohio, and I got my start with music basically right after I finished high school. So that was in like 2012, and I knew nothing. I didn't know how to play an instrument. I didn't know what the notes on a keyboard were. I didn't know anything about a DAW. But I played this computer game called Sim Tunes when I was a kid, where you kind of put colored dots on the screen and your instruments play them. And again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, hey, if I could do that in a computer game, I saw my dad using this like DAW to record his own music. I'm like, hey, that's kind of like a computer game. If I could probably do that. I'll just hit random notes on the keyboard until I find something that sounds good. And so that's kind of how I got started, and I just got kind of addicted to it and just started learning and learning more and more. And then eventually went to college for audio engineering and got a degree in 2019 in that, and then started Orpheus Audio Academy a little bit later. And that's how I got my start with production.
So are you a songwriter yourself?
Yes. Yeah. I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs. But I do it all in the computer since I don't play an instrument. So that's kind of been my realm, is writing electronic music in my DAW, my digital audio workstation. And I've written songs for other artists. That's actually usually when I get hired is to write songs for other artists. Actually, I haven't had too many actually mixing gigs, but yeah, I really like songwriting and doing it with electronic music.
I actually hired Reagan to produce a track for me that'll probably end up on a future project. So I'll let you all know when that comes out. Something that I forgot to mention is while Reagan's presenting tonight, you can put questions in the chat. I'll try to keep up with it as much as I can. And then you can also raise your hand using the reactions functions, and we can call on you. We do want to try to limit the questions for certain times where Reagan pauses, so that way you can get the information and then we can sort of answer questions in a group, but definitely want to make this interactive. And then at the end, we'll definitely have more open Q&A and discussion, but just wanted to get that thrown in there too. So back to you, sir.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get started. Let me just share my screen here. All right. All right, and everyone can see that. All right, so tonight, what I'm going to cover is basically three different things. So number one is the 4 phases of completing a pro quality song, the only 5 pieces of equipment you need to make radio worthy music from home. And I see I have my using an older version here that has a typo in it. The only 5 elements your song needs to sound like a hit. So that's what we'll be covering here. And so just a little bit, I kind of already covered this, kind of my background there. This is what it looked like when I got started. So I got started with Cubase Element 6. Whoops. Cubase Element 6. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with Cubase, but that looks like back in 2013. And that's the picture of me in my parents' basement, just on a little tiny computer monitor and little MIDI keyboard. That's how I got started. And then this was the school I went to, which was actually a commercial recording studio. So we got to actually work with real bands and record actual artists as part of my education. So that's kind of my background that I'm coming from. And so when it comes to actually working on your own music, completing your own songs, and actually having them match up with the commercial, quality of music that's out there, right? That can seem rather daunting. Like, how do I go from, just being, my home office or home bedroom, whatever, to actually making it something that sounds like it could be on the radio? Well, there's these four processes that we go through. So to kind of break it down to make it more simpler, step by step, we want to follow these four processes, which are the recording process, the mixing process, the mastering process, and then finally the distribution process. And some of these are a little bit murky, like the recording process and the mixing process. If you're doing everything inside of a digital audio workstation, sometimes those can overlap, which we can talk about. So the recording process would look like this. You have basic track capture. So this is where you're recording your drums, your bass, your guitar, your scratch vocals. So this is kind of how a band would do it when they went into a studio, is they kind of record their main tracks, and then they do instrument overdubs. So that's where you're fixing stuff that didn't go well. Maybe you're adding in some additional layers. Eventually you'll do your vocal overdubs, where you actually do your actual final lead vocals and backing vocals. So right, a lot of people have this idea that when bands are recording, they're all recording all the sounds, all the instruments at the same time, but it's actually the series of layers that's being done here. And then when you're at home, obviously you're probably can only do one at a time. And so that's what kind of things can kind of overlap with writing and also recording. You're writing and you're recording at the same time if you're using like a virtual instrument, or maybe you're just recording your guitar straight into your computer. So there's kind of an overlap there sometimes as well. And then finally, as part of this recording process, you kind of clean everything up and prepare your mix for the mix step. And you do edits as well there. And then just a quick note about microphones for getting started, because we're going to get into gear a little bit later here. Probably one of the best microphones you can start out with is probably a condenser mic, because those are going to be more sensitive. They're going to pick up more detail. The downside with them is they can pick up maybe too much. It can be a little bit too sensitive. If you have a lot of background noise in your home office, then you could have more background noise you're dealing with. And so if that's something you're concerned about, then you would get like a dynamic microphone. And so that's really, when you're recording, you just need to have you really can get by with just like one microphone. And so usually I'd recommend a condenser microphone, but if you have a dynamic, that's fine as well. And so that takes you to the mixing process. This is the final assembly stage of the studio recording process. This is where you're making level and tone, level meaning volume, and then tone and image placement decisions. So where is everything going? Where are all your instruments going? How loud is every instrument going to be? What frequency is it going to be sitting at? And then you're also using signal controllers and signal processors to shape your sound. So signal controllers, they'll cover that a little bit later. And then you have the creation of the actual proper stereo mix. So you're ready for the mastering stage. And so this is breaking down mixing a little bit more. So the tone shaping, you get that from your EQ and saturation. So this is typically what you want to do first when you're mixing. Then you have your signal controllers. So these are your like compressors, expanders, and limiters. And then you have your signal processors, which are your reverb, echo, delay, and pitch. And I don't want to get too much into the mixing stuff here, because that's kind of a separate topic. But this is kind of just kind of giving you the big picture look at how you go from nothing to like a finished commercial quality song. And so this is a look at like if you're going to be using EQ, these are the different terms you might hear. Like, what does that mean? Like, something sounds tinny. What does that mean? Well, here's what that kind of would look like on the frequency spectrum. So if something is tinny, then there's basically too much frequency in the 1K to 2K hertz range, for just an example. So you can kind of see if you have too much of a certain frequency, they're going to have these negative sound characteristics, or not enough, you're going to have these other negative characteristics. And then where you want to be is kind of right here in this green middle section. So this is kind of just right, there's so much terminology I found in the mixing production world, especially when it comes to describing sounds, like how you describe what something sounds like. So this is kind of something that can be helpful for knowing what someone's talking about when they say a certain term like sibilance or harshness. What does that actually mean? Well, here's the actual frequency range that someone is talking about. And so that's what you might want to cut or boost depending on if it's not enough or too much. And so That's like a huge part of the mixing process, is really just tone, which would be like this frequency spectrum here, and volume control. And that's like 80% of it. And then there's the mastering process, which is where you set the final level and tone in image placement decisions. Um, it's where you use what are called linear signal controllers and processors. That just means you're using like an EQ that doesn't affect the phase of the track. So a typical EQ, it's going to actually add in some potential phase issues. What that just means is you can cause sounds to cancel each other out. So you want to use signal controllers that aren't going to be introducing any phase issues, because everything, when done over your whole track, because when you're mastering it, you're just mastering one stereo track. So you're going to be using specific controllers that don't throw things out of phase. And then you have the finalization of the commercial ready stereo mix for distribution. And then that goes to the distribution process, where you actually arrange and design for the project delivery. So that would be like the creation of a WAV file for digital distribution. That means the final actual file that you're going to upload to put on like Spotify or iTunes or wherever. I've had a lot of people like reach out to me to do a master for them, and they give me like an MP3 file, and you don't want to do that because an MP3 is actually very compressed, meaning there's been a loss of data, so it's not as high quality. So you want to make sure you're using what's called a lossless file, like a WAV file, when distributing it. Same thing for putting it, if you're putting it onto a CD. That's where you decide on the project packaging, right? Artwork and arrangement of the songs. And then you also upload to like a third-party digital distributor if you're wanting it on Spotify, iTunes, and things like that. And so I personally use DistroKid, but there's a bunch of other ones out there. So that's how I get my music onto Spotify and other platforms. So that's, I guess I can pause for now. So that's kind of overview, big picture of the whole process. I'm going to zoom in more on the actual recording phase, like phase one for this presentation. But that's kind of the big picture and how you'd go about creating a professional song. And if you want more help with like the actual mixing side of things, I do have a free cheat sheet here. You can go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/at-home to get this. And you can see it's just like a free cheat sheet in there on like EQ for like drums, guitar, vocals, for like how to go about EQing those and compressing each of those instruments. Also a mixing workflow guide in there, so you know what to do first, second, third, and so on. So if you're just wanting kind of something to help you know what to do when you're mixing, I recommend that, since that would be a whole separate presentation than this. So I know that's kind of a lot I kind of threw out there, and a lot of really big picture stuff. I didn't really go too deep into any of those things, but is there any questions on that before moving into the next part, which is how to actually start recording?
Reagan, what's the difference between a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone?
So they're constructed differently, but the main thing as far as, whoops, wrong way, characteristics wise, is condenser mics. They're going to be more sensitive, pick up the quiet sounds much better, and they can pick up a wider frequency range, and they're more sensitive and accurate. So a dynamic microphone, I know with its construction, it's basically there's like it's the full name is like dynamic moving coil. There's like a coil in the microphone that the frequency, or that it picks up the sound level pressure from like an instrument or your voice, and that's what causes it to move. I can't remember what the construction is on the condenser microphone off the top of my head, but I know that the
Yeah.
dynamic microphones, that's what you typically see live, because people can throw them on the ground and they're not going to break. And they can
Yeah.
like, they're great for drums because they can take a lot harder sound pressure level. Um, but yeah, they're not going to be quite as detailed typically.
So the difference, and you're right, with the dynamic microphone, the electronic signal is created as the sound waves literally move a magnetic head over copper coils, and that creates an electronic signal. So it's a physical action that creates the signal. And due to that, it can handle a lot louder sounds, but it has a little bit of coloration to it. So it's a little bit more dull of a sound. The condenser microphone then uses a very thin sort of diaphragm that's usually made out of some really thin metal, like a gold or a silver, and they run electricity to it and the sound waves actually vibrate that little membrane, and then that is turned into a signal. So that's why condenser mics, Ron just said, need phantom power. That's why condensers need power, because they're not actually picking up a physical like motion. It's actually using the changes in the diaphragm to recreate the sonic qualities. So one thing that's interesting about dynamic microphones, it's basically a reverse speaker. So back in the day, before things got better, drive-throughs like at McDonald's used to use the same, the speaker was the microphone. That's why you couldn't talk at the same time back in the day at McDonald's, because it was either acting as a speaker or acting as a microphone, because they both work in reverse, which is kind of an interesting trivia if you ever need that on Jeopardy. But sorry, back to Reagan. This is awesome.
Yeah, is there any other questions on what I just covered? If not, I guess we'll move on. So how to start recording. So all you need are basically these 5 things, and really you don't even need these 5 things, because when I got started, all I had was a computer, and I had like a MIDI keyboard, but I think that was it. I didn't even have a microphone because I just made instrumental music starting out. And really, you don't even need a MIDI keyboard either, because for a long time I used this like computer keyboard, because I would just hit keys on here to play stuff. So really you just need a computer and like a digital audio workstation to get started. But if you're wanting to record live instruments or like a microphone, then you're going to want an audio interface. So that's just like a little box that usually with USB you can connect it to your computer, and then you can plug in your mics through like an XLR, or your guitars through a line in. And then you're probably going to want to have like a good pair of headphones, because you want to be able to hear as linearly as possible. The reason why you might not want to have monitors is because your room is going to color your sound, right? As the sound comes out of your speakers, that's going to bounce around the room. And if your room isn't like acoustically treated, then you can make poor mixing decisions. For a long time, for example, I would mix my tracks and they'd be too muddy and too bassy because I didn't have what are called bass traps in my room. And so bass frequencies, they were like really big and long. So you can think of frequencies as a series of balls. So like your high frequencies would be like a super ball or a bouncy ball. You throw that at the wall, it's going to bounce around. So when you hear reverb, typically those are those higher frequencies that are going to be bouncing around. Then you have your mid frequencies, those are kind of like a volleyball. And you throw that at the wall, it's going to hit and maybe just kind of fall to the floor. So those are kind of absorbed. And then you have those bass frequencies, those are going to actually penetrate, go through the wall, like if you threw a bowling ball at the wall. So that's why if you're outside of a car or a building where someone's playing music, you only hear those bass frequencies because they're escaping. And so what happens if the bass frequencies are escaping your room, then when you're mixing, you're like, I don't hear enough bass. I'm going to put more bass into my track, even though you don't actually need it. So that's where if you have headphones, you take the room out of the equation, and you can typically make a little bit more accurate decisions in a home studio environment. Now there's downsides with just mixing on headphones as well, because you're not getting the left and right crossover as much. Things are a little bit too isolated, and you're not quite hearing that accurate picture. Plus, people are listening to music in rooms, not always on headphones. So you want to make sure it translates well to a room. So it's good to kind of have both if you can. But if you're just getting started, just using headphones is great. And maybe getting a pair that's open backed, like these, where there is some bleed and you can hear a little bit more of that crossover, so you can make a little bit more accurate decisions. And then there's a microphone, right? If you wanted to do vocals or recording an instrument, just getting some kind of a microphone would be great. And I have a studio like gear guide that you can check out. So I kind of give recommendations for everything. So if you want to look at that, that's free as well. I think I have that linked here. So anyway, this is kind of what it looks like if you wanted to like set everything up. So in the middle there is your audio interface. And so that would connect to your laptop or computer, whatever you have, via USB typically. And then if you have monitors, you can also connect from your interface to your monitors, your speakers. There's a little port there for headphones. And then you could plug in your mic or your guitar into the front, or if you have some kind of keyboard that you're using like an XLR or a line in connection with, you can do that as well. My MIDI keyboard is just USB, so I just use another USB connection to my computer, and that's really all you need to get started. And so if you want to know like my specific recommendations for your gear, for like your audio interface or computer or microphones, and so on, I do have a free gear guide that's also in that same link I mentioned earlier. So you can just go to orpheusAudioacademy.com/at-home to get that. Um, Also, as part of that, I'll also send you an email which has a quick demo on how to actually set it up. So actually show you like in Logic Pro, which is the DAW I use, a quick demo on how to actually record audio into your computer. So if you just need help getting that all set up and actually recording your first tracks, your audio tracks, then that tutorial should be helpful for you. And that's it on actually the equipment getting set up. Is there any other questions about equipment or what you need to get started recording?
Earlier, CJ had said she has a phase question. CJ, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Chad. This is great. This is so great, and it's so easily explained. I want to thank both of you so very much. I'm recording a Logic, and I'll do a rough in GarageBand, and I noticed that it's my tracks seem to go out of phase, even when I don't have them like doing anything fancy. You mentioned something going out of phase. When you, I don't know, what did you say? You said something can go out of phase before
Right.
mastering. Does that happen just in Logic when you're tracking and maybe adding a little bit of EQ and a little bit of compression?
It can, but more
Oh,
typically, if you're recording like live tracks and
uh,
are you like doubling tracks? Are you recording like doubles?
yeah. Yes, I am doing multiple vocal tracks and multiple guitar tracks.
So
I go
typically,
into, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, typically that happens when those doubles aren't exactly lined up exactly. If they're like a little bit off, what you have, like you have to like really zoom
Yeah,
in. So you
yeah,
got the waveform, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like a wave. It's an actual wave, like the ocean wave. You have
Mm,
peaks and troughs, and
yeah,
if the peak of one waveform is aligned with the trough of another waveform, they
we
actually
got problems.
cancel each other out, and you actually lose frequencies. So you may have to zoom in there and make sure they're aligned. And so that's part of the kind of the last
Yeah.
stage right before you go into mixing is you want to make sure everything is aligned correctly and not actually out of
Mm-hmm.
phase with each other. So that's typically when you get that. But yeah, if you're using just like a typical EQ, that can add some extra coloration, saturation, that can add some phasing issues. But typically you're more so that's when you're like mastering a track and it's you have all your tracks already condensed into a stereo track. But if you're just like actually recording and doing the mixing and stuff's out of phase, it's probably because you've got those double tracks that aren't quite aligned so that the peaks match the peaks and the troughs match the troughs. Does that make
Well,
sense?
yes, absolutely. I have a trick though that I use that to make sure they're precisely lined up. And I do check the waveform, but I'm wondering if compression or EQ, like you said, is adding something to one track, let's say, that I want on the lead vocal, and I have a very distant backing track, but it's the same as the lead vocal, but I'm EQing it and compressing it differently. Are those things that could go out of phase because of different values on those two uh, modifiers?
It's
I,
yeah, it's possible if it's adding those extra like harmonics in there that aren't going to be the same. But
Okay,
that's a little rarer.
yeah,
gotcha.
I
Okay.
don't know if that would be phase, CJ, but it could be definitely like coloration. Like different forms of saturation might sound different when you combine the waveforms together. Um,
Okay.
which might
Yeah.
be
Okay.
that might be considered phase. I don't know, Reagan, but
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I don't. Yeah, so what is exactly the problem that you're experiencing? Do you feel like you're losing frequencies, or is it just sounding different?
Well, I have a lot of problems, but yeah, it's I feel like I'm losing frequencies. Yes, it is sounding different. Yes, but also Logic is doing wonky things like um changing the key, just deciding
Okay.
to change the key of a couple tracks or a track.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
Um,
normal.
yeah. So
I don't know if
so that's
there's maybe some automation that somehow got set up, and so when it crosses a certain point in the timeline, it drops or increases in Well, is it the whole track or just individual tracks?
No, it's an individual. Oh no, just an individual track. Like let's say I record a song in the key of C, and let's say I don't like it there, and I'll change the BPM and I'll change the key. Right. Let's say I raise the key up uh, 2 octaves. But let's say I don't do anything to the other tracks because they're empty right now. Then I go in and record everything else to the new key and the new BPM. That sounds great. And then sometimes those tracks that I recorded after I made the changes will just change down to no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah. The tracks that I changed the key of will drop down, will drop back down into the original key.
Huh. So I don't know if maybe there was like a read or some kind of automation turned on when you made that
Okay.
adjustment. Because that's typically the only time I see that, where I make a change and then like, why did it change back? It's usually because I had some
Something going
automation
on
turned on, and so
in the background.
that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head for why that would happen.
Okay, but should you be able to change the key and then record new tracks in that key? Yeah, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't matter what key. Okay, yeah.
yeah, I've
All
done that
right.
before. I've transposed an entire arrangement, and then I just I would add new stuff in that same key, and it's fine. So I've never had
Okay,
that
good.
issue.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that helps a
Yeah,
Uh, John Bennett.
Oh, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure if I've ever heard anything out of phase, in all the years I've recorded. What does it sound like, or is there examples?
You could probably look up examples. I don't have any in this presentation, but basically it'll sound like entire sections of instruments are missing. For example, I heard an example one time where something was out of phase and like the entire like lead vocal disappeared. Like you could kind of hear it. It's almost like if someone made a bad version of like a karaoke track where someone tried to take out the vocal. You could kind of hear it, but not really, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically entire frequencies are getting canceled out. They're canceling each other out. So you're just like missing sound, if that makes sense. Or it's like garbled. It's like somewhat missing. You can kind of hear it like a ghost of it there. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
John, sometimes it will sound like a very slight flanging sound to it as well. Like if you've ever listened to like a phaser pedal, what a
Yes.
phaser pedal is doing is it's moving things in and out of phase, which creates that effect.
I
So
see.
that's a phase effect. You can get phasing issues if you record with more than one microphone, because what happens is one microphone is picking up the peak of the sound wave while the other microphone is picking up the valley. And then when you put them together, like Reagan said, they disappear. So there's some and I'm sure Reagan, you might have some of these too, but you can look these up online, where if there's certain formulas on how you should set up your mics. If you're using more than one mic, you can use an XY, like an X pattern, to make sure that the phase isn't out of phase. But then there's a triangulation formula that you can use too to make sure that you're capturing the full signal.
Right. Yeah, there's the Blumline principle, which is like 3-to-1. So like if you are using two mics and they're like a foot away from the source, then you want them to be 3 feet apart from each other. And depending on where they're miking, you want to kind of follow that ratio. That's one example. Yeah, or the XY pattern that you mentioned, where you kind of line them up like that. I typically am only using one microphone at a time, so I haven't done these since I was working in the studio or using lots of mics. But you don't really have to worry about that if you're just like using one microphone.
But if you're playing if you have a mic'd guitar and then you also have a mic on your vocal, so if you're using a vocal mic and a guitar mic at the same time, you can sometimes run into phase issues. And the other place where you run into it is if you're miking drums. Sometimes the phase gets flipped on a drum mic, and then your kick drum, instead of pushing the speaker out, actually sucks the speaker in. So sometimes flipping the phase can, I think Tony said it in the chat, where if you flip things in and out of phase, if it gets stronger, that means you probably have phase issues. But it's more complicated than most of you are probably going to run into on a day-to-day basis, but it is definitely something to think about for sure.
Yeah, and usually and then there's usually like your DAW probably has like a a stock plugin that is just click a button to flip the phase. That's pretty easy to do.
All right, thank you.
All right, yeah, hopefully that was helpful. All right, so now this is kind of, I'm more going to get into actually like producing a song, recording a song in your DAW. So the only 5 elements your song needs to sound like a hit are the bass, the drums, some kind of mid frequency element like piano, rhythm guitar, something like that, your vocals or your lead instrument, and then some effects. And so that might seem really basic, but it took me a long time to realize that, because I would just like, when I was working in my DAW, I'm like, how many different sounds can I put into this song? I would, I would have like so many different parts, so many different sections, so many, like 3 melodies in one section, because it's like, why not? Let's just add more and more sounds. That's not what you want to do. Usually less is more. And so it's really great to just start out with these 5 elements, and then right as you go along, maybe you want to add in some extras, but usually they're going to fit in one of these 5 categories. And so this is kind of a good way to think about when you're writing a song. These are the 5 things you need to have in any song, basically. And so when you go about crafting your sounds, there's different building blocks you can use. Let's say different materials when you go about building your song. So you can use samples and loops, and the positives of those are you can just drop them in. They're pre-recorded audio. Hopefully you're using good quality samples and loops, so they already sound professional, so they immediately you sound pro. The downsides are you have a limited ability to alter them, right? You can't really change the performance at all. If you wanted to change some notes, you can't do that. Other people can use those sounds as well, so you're losing some of that uniqueness to your music. Then you have another building material is virtual instruments. So this could be programming or recording with MIDI. And you, again, can immediately sound pro, because again, you're gonna be using sounds that usually sound good, whether that's like a synth or some kind of instrument that's modeled after like a real sound. Like Native Instruments has some really good like guitar plugins that actually are modeling a real guitar. So when you use it, it sounds like a real guitar. More room for shaping the sound and expression than just a sample or a loop, because you can actually still write in the MIDI notes, play the MIDI notes, and you can create your own unique performances. Again, other people can still use these sounds, so you're not necessarily using the most unique sounds necessarily. Then you can use live sources, of course. So this is like recording your own guitars with a mic, or just recording it direct into your interface. Same thing with vocals or whatever instruments you're recording. Another big positive there is you're going to sound unique. You can create your own unique sounds, your own unique performances that no one else has. The big downside is that your live sources rely heavily on your room, on your microphones, and on those recording techniques we kind of mentioned earlier, and also relies on the ability of the performer. So with that in mind, right, weighing those pros and cons when you go about to construct your sound, you kind of, I guess, need to evaluate where you're at, right? Do you have a good room to record in, or are you a good performer or not? And so maybe you want to do some kind of balance of these. I very rarely use samples and loops, and if I do, I might use just one in my track. I typically use virtual instruments, and then maybe live sources I might use like 1 or 2, something that I actually record myself. Although since I don't play an instrument, that's a little bit more rare. So maybe you want to do kind of that balance. And maybe if you're just getting started and you're new to recording, and maybe you're still learning your instrument, maybe you want to rely more heavily on the virtual instruments and loop side of things. And then as you get better and learn more, then maybe you can move more towards the live sources. But this is something I've seen trip people up. I knew someone who was trying to start recording, and he was just trying to use live sources, and it was just so frustrating trying to get it to sound good. It didn't sound like what he wanted it to sound like. It didn't sound like his favorite artists, and he had a hard time with getting it to stick to the grid and be on the beat and everything. And it was just so frustrating for him that he kind of just gave up. And so I don't want anyone to get too frustrated if they're giving up. So if you want to, if it doesn't bother you, and you're willing to put in the extra time to learn those things and create really good live recordings, you can do that. Or if you find it too frustrating, it's totally fine to just start with some samples and loops or virtual instruments, and then maybe you go have like one really good live guitar track that you try to record, and then maybe you do, as you learn and you grow, you add some more live instruments. And of course, if you're doing vocals, I mean, you can buy, or you can hire someone, or you can buy vocal samples, but I've typically always tried to do my own live vocals. But anyway, hopefully that makes sense.
So a
Yeah,
few
go ahead.
few questions, Reagan. So one was going back to Cheryl, on I think the previous slide, you listed one of the 5 elements is effects. Cheryl wondered,
Yes.
what does effects mean?
So that can be a range of things. That can be like a riser, or it could be like an impact sound. So that's more typical in like electronic music. But even in like rock music, you can have
So
things that I could consider effect. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
so a lot of the people in here are singer-songwriters that play an instrument, like you're coming from electronic music land.
Mhm.
Like effects, are you talking about like actually like reverb, delays, those types of things, or are you talking about more like actual sounds that you're adding in? Like can you explain what a riser is and what an impact is?
Yeah, so a riser is just, usually it's typically something that increases in volume and like frequency over time. So it could be like a whoosh, or like it goes zzz, or right, it was kind of increasing in pitch as well typically. But that's usually more in electronic music. But even in like I would consider this could even be like vocal ad libs, like little things, or just like different noises or something that you play on the guitar, or like a slide or something that's not maybe a typical part of the main track, like little garnish, you can think of it. So it doesn't have to be like these electronic things, like a big, impact or a big noise splash. But typically, if you don't have them in, it feels like something's missing. So it's like little small ear candy. Um, Typically, it can be an effect, like a reverb, or a delay or something. But this is more so talking about like an actual sound that you're recording or you're placing into your track.
Ear candy is more common within like pop, electronic, like dance music. You don't see it quite as much in some of the more acoustic type stuff. David says so effects is like a fill. A lot of times they are in the fill. They're just little accents or little ornaments of some kind that sort of break up the sound. I would encourage you, if you're interested in putting ear candy into your songs, like just do some YouTube searches. There's a ton of videos about doing ear candy. And Reagan, I don't know, do you have any videos on your YouTube about that yet?
Um, I've been meaning to do one just on ear candy. I do have one on how to create transitions between the different um, portions of your track. So like between your verses and your choruses and so on. And so I do demonstrate some different effects you can use to help create those transitions.
So like imagine on some songs where it sounds like it goes and then it goes like into the next section, that would be like a riser or like a sweep type of a thing. Somebody had said they think that the links that you had posted are not working, so you might have broken links. You might want to check
All
that
right.
after we're done.
Okay.
Let's see. Also, Billy had a question. He said, any recommendations for the simplest setup for guitar and vocals using GarageBand?
So the simplest thing for guitar, I think I accidentally lost my presentation. I'm just trying to see if I can get that back.
We can still see it.
All right, you can still see it, but I can't see it. Let's zoom. Clicking on the zoom. I'll answer the question though. So for guitar, the absolute simplest is just plugging your guitar straight into your interface and then using some kind of amp simulator in GarageBand. And this is actually very common even at the pro stage. Like you don't really see amps too much anymore. So for example, at the where I learned was actually a commercial recording studio. So we're actually recording real bands. And we did have an amp, but we never used it. We always used an amp sim. So we always tried to kind of record as clean as possible because there's so many great software tools out there to then create the exact guitar sound you're looking for, versus if you're recording an actual amp, then you're kind of done, right? It's kind of already has the tone and the character baked into it, and you can't really change it at that point. So it's totally fine to just, have your guitar, just plug it right into your interface and get started with that. I don't know what all guitar stuff that GarageBand has. I know Logic has a good amount of, amp sims and pedal effects and all kinds of stuff. And then there's a bunch of great third-party companies out there too. But if you're just getting started, it's totally fine to just plug your guitar direct into your interface.
Can you explain what an interface is?
So yeah, so an interface is what I talked about earlier. Let's see if I could get my presentation back up here. I might just need to stop share and reshare. Share again. So your interface is what my interface looks like. So it's just this little box that, sits on your desk, and you can see at the bottom here where you see the kind of the number 2, and then my thumb is coming out number 1. Those are the 2 inputs. And so that's where you'd plug your guitar into. So right now I've got 2 XLR microphones connected to this, but you would just plug your guitar cable into one of those inputs, and then you've got your gain knobs there. And so you just set the gain level to where you want, so it's not clipping, not distorting, not too loud, but you get enough level there. And then you just record like that. And then you've got your headphone out at the bottom there. So that's where the headphones go. And then there's 2 cables up top there that's going out to my monitors. And then on the far right side, there's a little cord there. That's my USB cord that plugs into my laptop. So that's just all you need, some kind of interface like that. I think this interface here, this iRig Pro Duo, is like $200. But you can get started with something like a Focusrite Scarlett Solo. I want you to get probably 2 inputs. So there's like a Focusrite Scarlett like 2i2, which is like I think $167. But that's all in my free gear guide, which I'm seeing if that works. But does that answer the question?
Yeah, and Victor made a comment. He said for acoustic singer-songwriters, consider Focusrite. Yeah, Focusrite makes good ones. My interface, I just got a new one, which is an SSL, a solid state logic. It's an SSL 2 Plus. I think it was like $250 too. You can get some pretty pro level stuff for a couple $100. There was another question, Reagan, about somebody has a question about virtual versus real instruments. What would be the question on that?
Yeah, my question, oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Yeah, okay. My question would be, for those who are undecided, should they go virtual or go with real instruments? I was recently told, oh, it's much easier to produce with virtual instruments. That seems kind of counterintuitive to me, because I feel like if you have real instruments, yes, you need someone who's able to record them well, but then you already have a trick, and if you have a good instrument recording, then you probably, as a beginner, don't have to do that much effect-wise. So what's your take on that? And maybe are you going to talk a bit about combining both virtual and real instruments?
Yeah. So yeah, there's pros and cons to each. So if it's comfortable for you to record live sources and you think they sound good, and it would be more work for you to learn like a virtual instrument, then it's totally fine to just go and record live sources. But what I've seen a lot of beginners struggle with is trying to get an actual recording that sounds good. And that's actually a skill you should definitely learn. But I'm saying it's totally fine to, as you're learning that, use virtual instruments. And there is a place to combine these. A lot of times you see this with drums. A lot of times people might layer up a live drum recording with some drum samples. So that's something that's commonly used as well. But that's typically if the drums weren't recorded great, in which drums are a pretty tricky instrument to record because it requires a lot of mics, requires a good drum room. So it really, I guess it just depends on what is the quality of your live recordings. Now, if you're recording a guitar direct right into your interface, then really you've taken the room out of the equation. So now it's just the ability of the performer. And if you're a great guitar player, then that's no problem. Just, record your guitar, just record your vocals and you're good. And you don't have to worry about the room. So I guess it depends on what you're working with, how comfortable you are. So it's really, there's just pros and cons to each. And so it really comes down to you. And really, when it comes to you, you have your own probably set of pros and cons for each one. So it's just kind of weighing for yourself what you think is best and going with what works for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very helpful. And by the way, for those, I don't actually play an instrument, I know you're right. For those who are in my position, I use Musiversal because you can book positions. It's a subscription. You can have professional musicians in their homes to record. So their quality so far is enough for my causes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if you're yeah, if you got great basically studio musicians recording your parts, then yeah, then that totally solves the problem right there, because you're gonna you're gonna get really good unique live sources. So yeah, if that's something that works for you and fits into what your workflow is, then by all means just go with that.
For my music, all of my instruments are virtual except for my voice. And then that's just superb, you know what I mean? It's not virtual or real, it's just awesome. That's a joke, Reagan.
Yeah,
Um,
I hate my own vocals, but so I have to, I don't have anyone else typically, so I have to go with it.
CJ, did you have another question? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Um, I had a virtual versus sample question. I used to make my own samples. I had a little, I could make the sample, then I had a little MIDI data filer, and I could save the sample. I could tweak it any which way. Are you using virtual and samples the same? Like, what's the difference between because to me, it's all samples unless it's real.
Yeah, so the difference is like so samples are like actual recordings of an actual live instrument that was done, usually somewhere professional to get an actual good recording, or it's somewhere like you could go to a site like Looperman. There's different ones out there where someone's actually recorded something and it's like a little clip that you can be looped or something, or it's just like a drum hit or something of a recording of an actual drum. Then you have like virtual instruments, which are like virtual synths like Serum. There's other virtual like instruments out there that are meant to sound like real instruments, like I mentioned, like Native Instruments. They'll have like pianos, which it's like sampled, but it's like it's made into an actual instrument, like a plugin that you use in your DAW to
Oh,
play MIDI data. So like a sample would be like an audio file, and a virtual
gotcha.
instrument would be MIDI.
Oh, perfect. And so then, like the stuff that I was like, when you use what in back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and you use like the banks, I would use keyboard banks. So there wasn't a keyboard there; it was just sound. It was a sound module. Is that like a virtual instrument?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Virtual instruments, CJ, are really complicated samplers.
Okay.
It's really hard to explain in a short amount of time, but they're really good. Like some of the Native Instrument stuff, like their guitar virtual instruments and the drums, like
I see. I get it.
I mean, they're top notch. Like,
I get it. It's all MIDI. I see. I get it. I think I
yeah,
have a small MIDI keyboard, and it came loaded with sounds, but I also can put sounds on it.
cool.
Okay,
Right.
thanks.
So yeah, those sounds then you'd be adding would be like individual samples, then you're playing it, but that's more like a sampler, like you're like triggering samples, versus it being like a virtual instrument, which is like
Oh,
something like Native Instruments. Like they have like this una corda piano where they've actually like taken the piano and modeled it and made it into like a little piece of software that you can play, and like it can track like velocity, and you can change whether you hear like the actual like hammers hitting the keys or not, or different mechanics. It's like really an instrument, almost like you actually have that piano in your house, versus just like a sample or a loop is someone actually recorded a performance with notes, and it's an actual wave file. Now you're putting that in to your project and you can't really change it. So that's kind of a difference between a sample and a virtual instrument.
now how do you play that virtual instrument? What's the interface if you don't want to play the little squares?
You just like use a MIDI keyboard to play it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, so those are the different, I guess, what I consider building blocks that you can choose to use to craft your song. And I kind of like to think of it as kind of boiling that down into kind of 3 steps here. So you kind of got your foundation of your song is going to be your your lead or your melody. So that's kind of the most important part of your song. So that's really the foundation of your song, is having that good melody, and whether that's your vocal or lead instrument. Then you've got kind of the middle here of the pyramid is the supporting elements. That's where your drums, your percussion, your bass, and your chords come in. And then finally at the top, you have that decorative ear candy that we kind of talked about. So that can be like sound effects, like those risers, or impacts, noise, or even like synthesizers can have like different weird sounds that you might want to put in. That can be like fills, like a drum fill. It can be like atmospheres, maybe some like really atmospheric pad or electronic sound you want to put in, or even like a dropout where there's no music playing at all. So a lot of times that's really big. Taking away elements can really make a huge big impact on your music. So that's kind of like the last step there, is kind of adding that decorative ear candy, which I think can still apply to even singer-songwriter, because you listen to, really good singer-songwriter music. Sometimes they'll have like little guitar frills or like vocal ad libs that aren't like the main track, but they're doing something in the background that's adding something to it. So just kind of like think of it just like some little elements that you can add in to enhance certain parts of your song. So that's kind of how we take those building blocks and then like arrange them. So some track building tips that I found really helpful is it's actually okay to use MIDI packs or like chord progression packs and samples to come up with ideas. All right, maybe you don't want to just exactly copy those, but it can be great to just like, if you have a chord progression MIDI pack, you can drop it in, and then maybe that can save a lot of time. You can like then move around individual notes or even change entire chords, but it saves a lot of time than having to like craft your chords from scratch, which you totally can do as well. But if you want to save time and kind of make progress faster, it's totally fine to do that. Also, I really recommend keeping up the momentum and focusing on speed and using deadlines over thinking of all the time in the world, because I find that weirdly, maybe it's just me, but you can take or leave any of these tips, right? See if they work for you or not. But for me, I find that by keeping up the momentum, I'm able to stay in flow state. And so flow state is basically a state of mind where you're in a position of relaxed high performance, right? So maybe you've noticed that when you're working on music, where you just kind of forget what time it is. You don't realize how much time has gone by. Like you cease to exist, and it's just about the music, and you don't stop until you realize, wait a minute, I'm going to pee my pants. I need to go to the bathroom. I don't know if that's been your experience, but that's when I've happened to me. That's like when you're in flow state, where you're kind of performing at your best. And what is required to stay in flow state is that you're doing something that's just challenging enough to keep you focused, but not too challenging where you get frustrated. And so maybe in the beginning, where you're still learning your DAW, you're still learning the tools, right? You're going to be butting up against the more frustration end of things. So that's where I'm talking about remove as many roadblocks and frustrations as possible to just getting started. So if that's just only using samples, we're just dropping in samples, arranging samples to get started, that's totally okay. Whatever can help you keep up the momentum so that you're staying in flow state, so that you're staying at your best, and so that the process is fun. Because if the process is fun, then you're going to keep doing it, and you're going to get better at it, and you're going to see more results. And then as you get better, right, then it becomes a matter of, keeping up that speed, keeping up the momentum, so you're not dropping out of flow state. Don't worry about sound selection yet when you're writing the song, because maybe this is more for if you're using electronic music, because in my world, you can get lost going through presets, and then like 20, 30 minutes has gone by and you haven't actually written anything because you're trying to find the right sound. You can worry about that later after you've actually gotten the song written. So just focus on the 5 key elements first. Then you can go back and add other instrumentation and change sounds, add ear candy last. Some more. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, it looks like we have a couple questions. Jeanette, do you have
All
a
right.
question?
Oh, no, I just wanted to make a comment. Reagan, when you were saying about flow state, what's funny was I was working with 2 of my friends that was helping me produce a song that I'm supposed to turn in this Saturday. And one of the guys said to the other person, hey, you gotta hurry it up. Like like we have a deadline and use those keywords, you said deadline and flow state. It's interesting you said that because um as a beginner, you know, like the whole DAW thing is new to me. I just write on impulse, like melody and lyrics, and then how to put this on DAW. And I get what you're saying about don't get distracted by sound effects, because I was watching these two guys go, what should we use for this instrument? I mean, they're used to it. So, but
Hmm.
even though they were used to that, I mean, time just goes by fast and they had to go to bed. So for me, it kind of like, how does somebody begin to even start like I mean I wrote down what you said here: bass, drums, mids, and it's interesting because I'm surprised something like keys isn't involved. But anyway, it makes perfect sense about what you're saying about flow state. I guess that's just something I got to keep in mind, is to not be distracted. I just don't know what to avoid those pitfalls to not be distracted, especially for someone like me who's just learning this, you know. That's
Right.
all.
So yeah, I guess step one would be just, yeah, to be aware of what those pitfalls are and what's getting, tripping you up, and then addressing that. And as far as like, I you were said you sort of surprised that keys wasn't a part of that. You mean
Yeah,
like
yeah,
piano or like keys?
yeah, keyboard.
I
Because
would,
I have a Kai MIDI system, and I know you talk about the interface, and I was like, what if I want to play that? Because the keyboard, I try to do the keyboard
oh,
with
you're
it.
saying like a MIDI keyboard.
Yeah, and it's just like that's the whole that it's all about feeling, you know. You know,
Uh-huh.
I
Oh,
want
I'm
to do
a
it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a huge proponent of having a MIDI keyboard for sure. I definitely recommend having a MIDI keyboard. That was just going through that list of the equipment you need. That's just like bare minimum what you need. Um, if you're
So
on a super extreme budget, but yeah, definitely having a MIDI keyboard would help a lot if you're gonna be actually playing keys and things.
what I like to think about Janetta as far as like what you want to include in the song is just imagine you're watching a band play on stage. What's there, right? Like there's a singer, there's a guitar, there's a bass, there's a drummer, maybe there's a keyboard. That's where those elements come into play, is just picture like what a band would play.
Right.
Uh,
And I would include that under like the mid section would be like some kind of keyboard part, unless it was a
yeah.
lead, right? A keyboard can also take the lead part.
Another question, beret roots.
Yeah, I probably missed this, but could you say what you mean this context of sound selection? Because to me, if you say you've already got the first five elements, I've already got the drums and instrumentation, that to me that's sound selection. To me that's I've decided I want to go like let's say with a keyboard or with a synth or with a electric guitar or acoustic guitar. So can you maybe explain what you mean here just real quick?
Yeah. So that probably applies more to like electronic music. If you're using like a synth like Serum, for example, and you've got like the chords down, or like trying to like cycle through a bunch of different key presets or pad presets, like don't worry about that. If you're working with more like acoustic instruments or like live instruments, it could be like, don't worry about finding the right amp sound for your electric guitar or something like that. But if you're just like recording drums or recording your acoustic guitar, kind of the sound is the sound, so you don't have to worry about that. So that more so applies if you're using like virtual instruments, um, getting tripped up with trying to find the right tone or right sound, or even with guitar, trying to find the right guitar tone. I would say don't let that trip you up. Don't get bogged down in that while you're actually writing the song. So like a lot of times I make electronic music, but I'll start with just a piano sound for my chords, and I'll go and I'll change the piano instrument to a different instrument later because I'm using MIDI. So yeah, that may or may not apply to you depending on what instruments you're using.
No, that makes perfect sense actually. So like not get tripped out on things like EQ
Right.
or like something even that should come later, like mixing or if sound a lot of sound effects. Because first you want to have all the elements, those five things you said, you want to have those first.
Right. Because I feel like mixing is um, more of a left brain approach, which is the left brain is the logical side of your brain, I believe. I think that's right. I could be getting that wrong. And then the creative side, like writing the song, that's more of a right brained side where, so if you're trying to add EQ or getting, bogged down with trying to cycle through presets or finding the right effects or sounds to add to something, then that can knock you out of the creative flow state that we talked about earlier. Also, that can be a problem later, because then when you go to mix your track, you already have all these effects and stuff on your tracks, but you put those on before you finished actually arranging your track and writing your track. And now those effects might not work with the other tracks you added. It could be adding, could cause those different tracks to clash with what you did. So it's kind of best to just kind of get things written, and then you have the separate mixing phase. Although some people will kind of do both. They'll kind of write and mix at the same time. So I guess, again, with everything in music, it's all subjective. So find what works for you. But these are just some tips that I've found helpful, which again, may or may not work for you. But maybe try them out and see how they work.
Yeah, that's actually, it makes a lot of sense, like separating the creative building block thing and the more technical details. That I
Right.
like that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that applies to, I think, a lot of creative fields. I'm also like creative writer, and a lot of writers will say you don't edit while you're writing your first draft. So it's kind of the same thing for music. You don't want to be editing while you're writing.
Yeah, like don't spend 3 hours on the second line of your song. Like wait till you have a song written and then go back and find the ones that stink.
Exactly. All right. So more track building tips are kind of getting back to kind of the building blocks that we talked about, was removing the room as much as possible. So that might be using virtual drums or amp simulators, virtual synths, and other instruments. Acoustic guitars are the exception. Those are kind of hard to emulate. I know Native Instruments does have some good sounding acoustic guitar virtual instruments, but that's really hard to kind of mimic the feel of an actual real acoustic guitar. And so, yeah, so for that, you kind of have to record live. You also want to get it right at the source. So you want to record your sounds to sound mixed rather than trying to fix it later. That will save you a lot of pain and headaches. So if, a recording isn't quite right, it's okay to just go and record it again. And then it's just a huge one. Use reference tracks. A lot of people talk about using reference tracks like when you're mixing, so that it has kind of the same tonal characteristics. But this is also a really great idea when you're writing your track, right? Maybe all you want to kind of use as your reference is where are the different sections. So maybe you want to make sure you match like your verse length to the verse length of whatever your reference track is, or same thing with your choruses, or the instrumentation, like what instruments are in that reference track, and you try to kind of use the same instruments. So it's not copying, but it's using something that works, right? Maybe it's in the same genre that you like, or that you have the same instruments that you're using, and you can use that reference track to really help guide you. And so you don't get stuck like, what do I do now? You can just say, oh, what did they do in this track? And maybe you can get some cool ideas, or they had a really cool fill here, or it's really cool how everything kind of dropped out that one part before, boom, hitting that crescendo in the final chorus or whatever. So it's a really great idea to have a reference track, and maybe just like putting that in your DAW while you're writing. And using markers is a good idea too in your DAW, where you can kind of mark where the different sections are. Maybe you can pull up the notes. There's a lot of DAWs have like a notes area where you can use a notepad or whatever, and you write down what you like about it. And then you kind of have that in your brain as you go to write your song, and that way you can make sure you don't get stuck and you can keep the song moving. And
So Reagan, Ron has a question in the chat. He said, for reference tracks, should you buy high quality like recordings, or can you use YouTube streaming sites? Like, what do you personally use for referencing?
Yeah, you can do that. I actually have a system where I route the audio of Spotify so that it goes straight into my DAW, and then I play the song in Spotify and I hit record in my DAW, and it records the track right into my DAW, so that way I have it in there and I can use it as a reference. I forget the name. I use a free app to do that. I have actually a free video training on that, which I can look up what that is. That'd be helpful to you. maybe I can give that to Chad and he can email that out or something, just how to get references, different way to get reference tracks, or yeah, you can buy them to put them in your track. But generally, like, I mean, you could also just like listen to a YouTube video if you're just using the reference track for ideas, but I kind of like to have it in the DAW itself so I can kind of immediately like have it right there. If you're mixing, you want to have generally at the higher quality tracks for actually hearing the tonal characteristics of the sound. So is that helpful? Answer the question?
Yep.
All right. So final track building tips are that the magic is going to be in the tracking, also recording and arrangement process, so not post-production. So that's like 80% of the quality happens in the recording and arrangement, and 20% is mixing and mastering. So don't feel like everything is going to be like fixed with the mix. Make sure you're just writing the best quality, recording the best quality that you can, and then the rest should take care of itself when you get into that mixing stage. Because you could always hire someone, or you could learn mixing yourself. But a big part of it is really making sure you just have a great sounding song. So I think we've all heard songs that maybe weren't the best mixed, but we still love them. They still sound really great because the songwriting was so good and the recording was so good. And then finally, go easy on yourself, right? I don't want anyone to get frustrated and have that, cause you to stop. So if anything is frustrating you, then just forget it. If anything I said frustrates you, then just forget it. Don't, do what works for you. And hopefully that is helpful. And I know sounds like Chad already has homework for you guys, but some action items I have was go build a track, create a track, just using instruments. Don't worry about vocals. That's kind of a whole separate deal. And then try to do it in 5 days from now. So that's an optional challenge for you. And then for more support, I'm actually going to be running a 30-day production challenge here in a couple of days in May. And the challenge is basically to try and devote 1 hour a day for 30 days to creating music. So that could be just sitting, writing a song. It could be recording vocals. It could be, editing your tracks and lining them up so there's no phase issues, whatever, just something music related. It could be writing lyrics, just for 1 hour a day for 30 days. And I'm going to be doing this myself, and I'm actually going to be live streaming myself doing this during the challenge to help give you more help and support. So I have a link there. I should probably test my link, make sure it works. I tested it earlier and it was working. But that's a link if you want to sign up to get more information about being part of that challenge. And I believe that's all I had.
Let's see if Zoom will let me unmute. Awesome. So any questions for Reagan on what you've learned so far? Is that helpful for you? Like, as you think about your recording process, like, what are some of the things that you still have lingering in your mind that we might be able to answer for you? Berace is very helpful. Tony's already signed up for your challenge, so that's great.
Awesome.
John Bennett.
Yes. What do you think about auto-tune your vocals? I know that's the most tedious part
Oh,
of
yes.
what I do. Like I'll spend all day just on one trying to get little problems out.
Yeah, that's a very controversial topic. Some people say, so what you're talking about is manual tuning. So there's auto tuning and there's manual tuning. And
Well, probably manual, like
right. I think that's what you're talking about, is where you're actually like
Logic Pro that has like 6 different little buttons on each
right, the flex
note.
pitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're actually like moving the notes around so they're in pitch. And yeah, that just takes a long time. That just takes a really long time. There's no way around it. Like even like the pros, so it's like, oh, it takes me an hour to do one lead vocal tuning. Obviously you're going to have the best results by using manual tuning. That's where it can actually sound natural, versus if you're using like auto tune, it can sound a little bit robotic. There's some really good ones now where you don't really notice it as much. So kind of the approach that I take is I will manually tune my lead vocals, and then backing vocals, I'll just use an auto tune plugin on those.
And start by singing in tune.
Yeah, too.
As
Yeah,
close as you can.
get it right at
As
the
always.
source.
I know.
Yes.
I can use two different tracks, and then move one part in or something. But
Ryan, this is Mark, 2 boxes down from you. Are you familiar with Reaper DAW? Are you familiar with that, or have you used it at all?
Are you asking me or were you asking
Yeah.
John?
Reagan.
Yeah, Regan, I'm sorry.
I've not used Reaper myself, but I know I've have my most popular video on my channel is which DAW is the best. And every day I get multiple people telling me this, their DAW, their favorite DAW is the best. And I have lots of people saying Reaper is the best, or I didn't mention Reaper in that video. It's like, oh, he's never heard of Reaper because Reaper is amazing. But basically the whole point of that video is there is no best DAW. It's all workflow preference. They all have the same features for the most part. They all have the same things, are just in different places, or the way you access them is a little different. So it really just comes down to what you're the most comfortable with. And so Reaper is totally fine if that's what you're comfortable with.
I've never used anything else, and I heard somebody sum it up pretty well. It says, in the end, it's all X's and O's.
It's not the gear, it's the ear.
Yeah, it's kind of like, a car, like all sedans, they'll have wheels, doors, steering wheel, kind of all have the same features. It's just maybe they're in a little bit different place. It's kind of the same thing with DAWs. They'll have kind of the same stuff. They're just arranged differently. And some are a little bit better than others in certain areas. For example, like maybe some are better for if you're a solo artist working in the electronic genre. Others maybe are a little bit better for recording full bands. But they can all do the same thing. It's just really what you're comfortable with.
Reagan, what is your, like, if we're gonna say you're gonna write a song, what's your usual workflow? What's your process?
So it depends. Probably when I just default to what my normal my normal groove, I usually start with the chords, and then I'll probably do bass and drums and kind of build that foundation, and then I go up to more mid instruments, and then the leads, and then finally the effects and the ear candy. And I'll typically write the verse and the chorus and then copy those and like try to change them up as the length, or I'll try to add something different to them so they're not exactly the same. And then I'll do the bridge kind of last. That's kind of the typical process that I follow.
Are you then top lining to your own track? Is that how you usually write your
Yes.
songs?
Yeah. A lot of times I'll actually start with the song title first, and then I'll write the song to that title. And then once the track's written, then I'll do the lyrics, and then I'll do the vocals.
Greg Badano has a question. What are your thoughts on mic preamps? He says a lot of condenser mics have lower level signals and they ask for a preamp. Do you have experience on that?
I think I've found more so it's the dynamic microphones that have that lower level. And I do have, I did get a preamp because a company sent one to me for free for a review. So I do have one of those for actually this microphone right here, because it's a dynamic microphone and it was pretty quiet beforehand. I guess it really just depends if you're running into that problem when you're recording, because you really don't want to be below like minus 24 dB, because then you're not going to be full 24-bit. You want to be at least above that. And then typically you want to give yourself enough, like not louder than like minus 10, minus 6 dB. So as long as you're in like that range when you're recording, I think you're fine. If you're not hitting that, maybe you're recording like really soft vocals, then maybe you want to get an extra like preamp to boost it.
And then Bray has a question. Do you have any advice on condenser microphone home recording? Oops, the chat moved. Finds it tricky to get recording quality right. And that's from an audio engineering standpoint.
So what was that question again?
So any tips on using condenser microphones to get the best sound quality?
Yes. A big thing is have the mic at nose level. not at mouth level. That's a little tip right there. That's what we would do in the studio because they are so sensitive. So if you have them right at mouth level, you're going to get a lot more mouth noises, plosives, sibilants. And if you just move it up to nose level, you kind of avoid the air coming out of the mouth. And it's so sensitive, it's not going to really change the recording at all. So that's a big tip. Otherwise, just normal kind of best practices with paying attention to your room. If there's a
Also,
lot of,
don't eat the mic. So like don't go like this.
yeah,
Like
because then you get the proximity effect.
you should be
Which-
at least like this, like do this with
Mhm.
your hand, and that's the minimum length that you should be away from your mic.
Right. And if you're
if you're
belting
closer
it,
than that, you're too close. And if you need it louder, then that's where you use the preamps and that's where you use the electronic amplification more so than trying to get closer. And the proximity effect, the closer you get to the mic, the more it picks up lower sounds. So you can actually get a lot more of that rumble, and you can also get a lot more of kind of the honk and the sort of like muddy part of your voice. Whereas if you're further back, you can get more of that sort of clarity sound where it picks up the highs a little bit better.
right. And also, depending on how you're recording, if you're recording softer, you might want to be like, again, like about right here. But if you're going to be like really belting things out, it's actually okay to move back when you're recording that. So you typically don't want your vocalist moving around when they're recording, because then you're going to get huge fluctuations in volume, which isn't great. But if you are going to be really loud, it's actually the great singers, they're kind of taught you do want to kind of move back a little bit. That can help get a more consistent recording, and you're not going to get clipping. Otherwise, you got to just pay attention to the room. If there's a lot of reverb, maybe you need to have some kind of filter on that you can put on the microphone to kind of block out some of that reverb. But that's kind of the main things.
I mean, the mic I'm using right now is a condenser, and it's straight up nothing on it, right? There's no preamp on it. There's no nothing. This is a straight up, like straight into my interface into Zoom. And yeah, it sounds okay. Greg, I did buy 73 a preamp because everybody on YouTube says like 73 is like the Neve 73 is like the holy grail of preamps. And I actually thought it brought out some really crappy frequencies in my voice. So I spent like $900 on it and I don't use
Oh,
it.
wow.
So you just have to find, the thing is most people can't tell the difference of what they're listening to because it's not, most people when they listen, they don't know if it's dynamic, they don't know if it's condenser. If you even do side-by-side comparisons, and there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that take these really expensive mics and show them next to like really cheap mics, can you hear a little bit of difference? Yes. Does it really matter? Not a whole lot for most people. So I wouldn't lose sleep over it too much.
Yeah, and again, going back to the like professional recording studio that I worked at, like we had a huge range of microphone stuff, going up to thousands of dollars down to like, I wouldn't say cheap, but like, in the hundreds of dollars range. And every voice sounded different. And sometimes we'd use a cheap microphone on someone because it sounded better on them. In fact, I know I think it was the Shure SM7B that my mentor who owns the studio used to record the lead vocalist. I think it was AC/DC that he did a project with, and just used that microphone, which is, a good quality microphone, but it's not like thousands of dollars microphone because he was really belting out his vocals, and that's a good dynamic microphone, so it can handle that sound pressure level.
I
So-
had read somewhere that Brandy Carlisle, with some of her songs that she belts, they use an SM57, which is a $99 like workhorse mic that you can basically take through the desert, run over with a car, and that thing will still work. Like I've recorded so much stuff on a 57, and people will be like, "What mic did you use?" And it's like SM57. Like it's basically an instrument snare vocal mic. Like it's a great place to start. $99.
Yeah, all the
All right.
budget gear is good enough. It can get you like 80 to 90% of the way there. And guess what? Most people can't tell the difference between a song that's 80% professional and 90 to 100%.
I've had professional like mixers listen to stuff that I've recorded on cheap shit, and they're like, "What mic are you using?" And they'll be like, "No way." It's like, "Yeah way." Jay, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying, Chad, on the SM57. With a lot of people, it seems, in different rooms are trying to find mics and trying to find preamps. The SM57 does sound great, but here's the thing. It's also a dynamic microphone, which means that your need to worry about your room treatment diminishes greatly. A lot of your concerns when you use dynamic microphones, it's just a different scale. If you're in a crunch, if you're in a price crunch and you're just kind of sketching things out, I would strongly recommend a dynamic mic. Unless you know your room treatment is good, unless you know that your environment's good. And I mean, basically, unless you're probably going to be mixing it yourself almost because you're just that involved in the process. If you're just creating, if you're sketching, if you're just writing or doing vocals, doing all the creative work, just spare yourself a condenser unless you really need a capture of your dynamics and you know it. You just know it.
Awesome.
That sounds
Thanks.
really great. That sounds really good because I also get bogged down and it really holds me up. Having to tinker with, am I going to be able to just record a good vocal guide track from our producer? So I really like that. I think I'm going to check out that mic and just take it easy because it's not the master anyway, it's a demo.
I mean, there's some hit records that have guitars that were recorded on an iPhone. So like it doesn't matter that much what you're recording on if it gives you a good sound or if it gets you most of the way there. It's really more about the performance and the song, really. Mark.
Yeah, I've heard it said and I've read that the final test, like an sounding engineer will talk to the client, if you got a song or something, says, go put it in your car and drive around and see how it sounds. And that's probably where most people do their listening anyways. So
Well, most people now listen on their phones. So you spend thousands of dollars for somebody playing your song on a shitty phone speaker. Like it doesn't make any
Usually
sense.
a hyper compressed MP3 file too, which is not great.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I was reading an interview with Keith Richards, in the song Street Fighting Man. And you young folks know the Street Fighting Man. They recorded he recorded the guitar introduction on a little cassette player, and it had all the wobble and wow and flutter in it, and he liked that, so they used that in the recording of that song.
Yeah,
That's super cool. Sorry.
I was just gonna, that's a funny thing that's happening now is like back in the day when people were recording, for their computers, you're recording in a studio with outboard gear and a console. The big enemy was noise, right? Tape noise, noise from the console, noise from all the equipment. And now today, everyone wants that, right? With digital, everything's too clean. So everyone's trying to get noise, put noise back into it. That's why you have dithering. That's why you have all these tape machine emulations. You've got all these different saturation tools, because that added a character, added a warmth, something that's kind of almost intangible, but adds an almost tangible feel to the music. And so people are trying to get that back. So again, it's also people want what they can't have. And so things go in cycles. And it's really, again, goes back to how good is the songwriting. Like another example is like the Beatles with their song Here Comes the Sun. I was able to listen to the stems of that, so the actual individual recordings of each instrument. And there's like, you can hear people talking in the background, you hear all kinds of noise, and you don't hear that in the actual full track because everything's playing together. But like in the dead space, you can hear noise and stuff. So if you have that in your songs, right, I have people that are concerned about like headphone bleed. Like you don't need to worry about that. You're not going to hear that. So I know we talked about, making sure you have a great environment and great quality recording and like limit noise, but at the same time, you don't need to really worry about it too much, because what's really matters is how good the song recording is. You just don't want it to be distracting or annoying. If it's distracting or annoying, then you can kind of cut it out. But if you can't really hear it, and most you can't really hear, so you don't need to really over obsess with that.
So Reagan, I know you have your challenge, which you posted the link in the chat, and a few people have signed up. But people can also hire you to do things. What are some of the services that you offer?
I can do a lot of different stuff. Mostly people hire me to write songs for them, but I can also do mixing. I can do that horrible, annoying vocal tuning and editing if you hate that. I kind of hate it too, but I'll do it. Mastering. I've even like put together a audio drama for a client before, so I can anything kind of audio that you need, I can do.
Cool. Beret, you have your hand raised again.
Yeah, I just want to add to those cool Beatle examples, a contemporary one. So Billie Eilish's hit song Bad Guy. They were in Australia and she heard this weird noise when you cross, you have this signal when it's green on those traffic lights for pedestrians, and they recorded that on her iPhone. And they were like, this is such a whack sound. And that's one of the main hooks in Bad Guy. They sample and they just put so many effects on that you can't hear the street noise anymore. I also want to say, like, people are here listening to great records on their phone speakers. My girlfriend listens to the charts all the time. Everything's on the chart. She has the shittiest headphones because she always breaks them. So she has like little earbuds that are like $20 earbuds. So I like, for me that's frustrating. I'm using good earphones right now. So you have to keep that in mind. That I read out that point a lot.
I think for me, like my fetish for equipment and my fetish for like production stuff has been an evolution, right? Like you start with the stuff that you can afford, the best that you can afford. And then as you sort of progress up, that's when you start investing in other things like different monitors, different mics. Like that's not where you start, right? Because you sort of have to cut your teeth to really understand, how do I make something that's mediocre? How do I make that sound really good? Because you can, right? Like you can make it sound really good. And most people when they listen to your music are not even going to pay attention to like, is the hi-hat too loud, or is the hi-hat too soft, or like, is the vocal too loud, is the vocal too soft? Go back and listen to Billie Jean and tell me if that shaker is not loud as F, right? Like the shaker in Billie Jean is the loudest thing in that mix, but you know what? That shaker makes the freaking groove. So like there's no rules, there's only tools, and you just have to kind of go with what you have. And that's what makes your music you, right? Like you don't want to sterilize it so much by making everything so pristine. Uh, let's see. Tone says, I
Yeah,
thought about getting bigger monitors, but since I check my mix with headphones, don't trust the room acoustics, I'm not sure it's worth it. The key there, Tone, is you have to kind of train your ears on what you're hearing.
yeah, it's
Uh,
also depending on the size of your room. If you're working like in a smaller room, like a bedroom, it's not actually a great idea to use like bigger monitors because they're going to be pumping out bass at a level that the wave forms are going to be bigger than your room. So it's not really great. So I actually have really small monitors, and they work really great. And they're kind of designed to help minimize the impact of the room. So you can still use monitors and get an accurate picture without having like a perfectly acoustically treated room. And then I also use some good mixing headphones.
so there was a question, where can people follow you on social media? What's your socials? What are your digits?
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm not really on social media, but I do have a YouTube channel, so you can just look up Orpheus Audio Academy on YouTube, and I also have a website which is just orpheusaudioacademy.com.
And then John Bennett had a question, how do you make the final music louder?
So yeah, that's there's a lot to unpack there. The quick answer is you use a limiter. So what the limiter does is it sets the absolute loudest your song can get, right? People will talk about what that should be. Usually it's like minus, 0.2. And then that's what kind of sets the max ceiling. And then that kind of brings up, then you can kind of bring up all the other sounds. So you're kind of reducing the dynamic range, limiting the output, and that kind of brings everything louder. And that's how you get things up to a commercial quality volume standard. But what you're seeing there is kind of like the peak limiting is what that is. So it's like you're setting the peak and so you're hitting technically hitting the loudness qualifications for, commercial standards, but it can still sound not as loud. So then you're dealing with perceived loudness. And so a lot of how you can get that perceived sound comes down to using things like compression, maybe even like some clipping. And so what that does is those tools can help reduce the dynamic range of individual tracks or what you're working with. And so that just means the difference between the loudest sound and the quietest sound in a particular performance, for example, a vocal, is less. So there's the quiet sounds and the loud sounds are closer together in volume. And so when your mix as a whole has like that reduced dynamic range, then it's going to be perceived as louder. And then when you put that final limiter on, it sounds really loud. The downside is you don't want to over compress things so things sound squashed, and you want to lose the life. If you overdo it, then it just sounds kind of lifeless. And so there's kind of a lot of different varying opinions on, is loudness still important, or do we want to preserve that dynamic range? I think it also depends on what genre you're working in. So that's, again, having references is really good. So you can have your reference, you can put a metering plugin on it, and you can look at what are its stats, what its peak level, what is its average volume level, its LUFS, LUFS, and you can kind of use that as a guide to match your song to that.
Yeah, and limiters can also introduce, if you squash it too much, it can introduce distortion. So you have to kind of just really use it lightly and try to take it as low as you can before it starts to like pull the I don't know what it's called. My
Threshold.
brain is tired today. The
Every,
threshold.
I mean,
Yes, there
they
you go.
all,
Threshold.
yeah.
Yes. Um that you kind of pull it down until you start to hear it either pumping too much or you start to hear it distorting, and then you go up just a little bit from there. But yeah, but a lot of
Right.
it, but just taking a totally bare track and running it through a limiter and trying to squash the crap out of it doesn't always work. So that's where what Reagan's saying is like you want to try to limit dynamics on each individual part a little bit, so you kind of control it as a whole, and then the limiter just kind of pushes it up at the end.
Right. And you
Jay,
typically,
oh, sorry, Reagan,
I
go
was
ahead.
just, I was going to say, reason you don't just like push the volume faders up is because that's when you get clipping problems, get distortion. So that's where you gotta, because that's just turning all the sounds up. So with the compression is you're quieting the loudest sounds and you're making the quiet sounds louder. And so as a whole, the whole track becomes more uniform. And so then you can bring it all up with a limiter, versus if you have this huge range and you limit it, you're just bringing up some of those sounds, but you're not getting the whole piece, if that makes sense.
On the Minnesota Association of Songwriters, on their YouTube channel, I did a whole workshop on mixing. That I actually mix a song live on the workshop. So if you want to watch that, go to the Minnesota Association of Songwriters on their YouTube. There's a video that I have there. Jay, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, actually I think I'm gonna go check out that mass video you did. I do need to renew my membership over there. But I was gonna say it's funny just thinking about production process and people's perception and priorities. When I first woke up this morning, I had a message from someone, and she's just kind of starting out, and God bless her heart. When we were first starting out, she was asking about mixing and mastering, post processes. And the reason I wanted to work with her is because she has such a nice melody, and her vocals, they're new, but she just sounded nice. She just had something. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take some time. I'm gonna work with her with this, that, and the other. And so I wanted to help her see, like, look, just focus on the creative process, and we'll do A, B, C, D, and E. And so it's been like weeks and weeks of A, B, C, D, and E. And life happens. She's been sick, this, that, and the other. And now she's come back and she's ready to do some stuff. But I read the message and I can see the frustration in her writing and what is capable, what I can provide her, what I cannot provide her, based upon things which I honestly believe, or toward the end, again, toward mixing, mastering, her releasing. And what I'm saying is that I was looking at specs just yesterday for the iPad that she has sent me the model number of yesterday, so that I could tell her whether or not she may need to actually get a computer. And as opposed to addressing, hey, look, let's figure out what you can do if you want to collaborate with someone, even if it's not me, to be able to send files, to be able to send MIDI or audio files, etc., basic things. Um, but we're gonna look at the end things. And so I feel like a lot of times people can have priorities putting their cart before the horse, and they're so ingrained in the subjectivity of their project, what they want to get out there before the project is even finished. And I guess I'm just sharing that because it kind of breaks my heart. I don't know that I'll be working with her in the future, and I'm sharing that because I've seen it happen with a few people. And instead of just going through the ABCs of the creative process, letting it take it from the first block work to the second block and let it progress, there's just an obsession to delve into things that that person hasn't even had the experience to really realize whether it's even a concern of theirs or not yet. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I don't know if that'll benefit anyone or it'd just be the
Jay,
ravings of a lunatic. But
Jay, I'm in a similar position as a songwriter, but maybe if you want to like connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, we can have a chat about that because I find it an interesting problem to hear from the other perspective.
sure, I can shoot
Yeah,
you. I'll shoot you some information in the DM.
yeah.
Here's the thing about the music industry is you're dealing with people, right? And people have
Creative
something
people.
called an ego, and a lot of times the ego's bigger than the bucket of talent that they wrote in on, right? Like, so you have to, when you're working with people, every artist thinks they're Adele. Every artist thinks they're Billie Eilish. Every artist thinks they're whoever the hot thing is, right? 90% of the time, they're not. So you have to just like from like your perspective, Jay, if you're trying to work with somebody and they just are off the wall like beyond help, I mean, they're already like 5 steps behind, right? Because they're not listening to where they need to start. And let's be real, your chances of making it in the music industry are less than stepping outside your door right now and getting hit by a car. You have a higher chance of getting hit by a car than making it as a superstar in the music industry. It's it's next to impossible to make that happen. So you have to do this for fun. If you're trying to do it because if you're trying to do it for money, you're probably in the most get rich slow scheme that ever has existed, because even the major labels are having a hard time making money. So you have to do this for the love of it. And you just have to do it, like Jay said, step by step, because there's no rocket to the end. It takes 20 years to be an overnight success. So you have to check your own ego. You have to check your own talent level. You have to listen to what other people tell you, not your family, not your friends. You need to find people who don't know you to give you a very clear review of your music so you know exactly where you're starting and you know exactly what to work on, because every single one of us, we could fart on a phone recording and our mom's going to love it, right? And every single person at your family reunion is going to be like, holy crap, you should go to Nashville, right? Like, you should go to New York. Like, you should sell that song. They have no effing clue what the music industry actually is. And the majority of people don't either. So you have to go into it, like Michelle just said, lose the ego, have fun, and if you get struck by lightning and the right opportunity shows up, awesome. But just think of it as every person you meet, every project you work on, it's the equivalent of buying a lottery ticket. Is it impossible? No. But making it in music is severely, capital all letters, not likely. That's my rant.
Well,
yeah, no,
Chad, that's like, sorry, go ahead.
oh, you can go ahead.
I just want to give a different perspective on this because, like, I'm gonna get in touch with Jay on this bit because there was a lot in there, but it's also like sometimes people just aren't a good fit as collaborators, right? With
Sure.
collaborators are hit and miss. Sometimes people just don't get each other, right? Because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes people just don't share the same vision, or even they share the same vision in the beginning on the creative style, but then there comes the next step. What do we do now? Do we want to get pitch this to sing? Do we want to get a good producer, et cetera, et cetera? Like, what's our budget? So things happen that people just don't get together. And also, you're saying, do it for the fun of it. If the other person does it for the fun of it, great. But I think another way to do it is to go like do it for the excellence of it. Do it for the excellence. That's like gonna be my approach. And also, like I relate a lot to that story about, oh, life got in the way because you got sick. That's exactly my situation, right? I had voice problems for a long time. But like what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna use like project management tools, right? Like tools for setting goals, project management, and like a budget. This is the budget I'm going to invest on my album, right? This is my budget, what I can afford to spend. And I think about allocation from upfront. Like you need to like act professional before you're professional. Like yes, you can't skip steps. You have to get the melody right. I agree with all of those things. You can't skip the steps of the craft, but you have to realize that collaborators are hit and miss, and yeah, just learn from that and just try to find people who are the right collaborators, because then with the right collaborator you'll get a song, a track done in no time. I was very, very lucky in a similar kind of random meetup. I know it's not random, I've been your meetups before, Chad, but in a meetup that I got into, I was in a songwriter forum. From that songwriter forum I got into a random meetup, and there I meet a producer. Producer was the perfect producer for me. I had no idea. I would have not done this track with a country producer. He did me a demo that was as good as a master for $500 in outside Nashville, and that was a chance encounter, right? So yes, it's like everyone is a lottery ticket, but like don't put all your money on one lottery ticket. You know, just try out different collaborators until you find that one. Look at Taylor Swift. Jack Antonoff was a nobody in production. He had not gotten like one cut in production. And she's like, I like your stuff. He won Producer of the Year twice because they found each other. And she's won Album of the Year, I believe, 3 times of him. That's my little rant. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's 100% possible. And in no way I'm saying don't try to be good. I think you should be as good as you fucking possibly can. But just know that that money that you're spending on that producer, the time that you're putting in, you're probably not going to make that money back. So you have to be okay with the knowing that you're going to lose for the experience and you're going to lose for the quality, because and you're better off doing your own music career than trying to rely on other people doing it for you, right? And that comes down to marketing. 100%. You have to do more marketing than you do music. It's like if you started a flower shop. There's like 200 million probably flower shops around the country, right? How do you market your flower shop and make sure that you are the number one florist? You have to promote the shit out of what you do. And that's the same for music. The myth that we are fed that you record music and some magic star maker somewhere hears a song and says, I'm going to make you a star. It's complete bullshit. It never
been that way.
existed, never has. Like it's been completely a myth that everybody falls into. And everybody out there online is trying to sell you something by saying that they have the secret. They have the thing that's going to, you just do this and you're going to be the next big thing. There is no such thing as a silver bullet. And yes, finding the right people is the key, right? It's all about people. It's all about, Taylor somehow discovered Jack, which means Jack had to have been doing something on his own for Taylor to discover him.
Well, he
Taylor
was the
is a
boyfriend of her friend, so like
right.
Madame Award, he was the plus one. It was the boyfriend of. So
Correct. And look at how
yeah.
Taylor started. Taylor is a vicious self-promoter. Like, she sucked when she started, right? It has nothing to do with talent. Alls it has to do with is self-promotion, self-advancement, and like pushing, pushing, pushing. Sitting in a bedroom recording a demo and then thinking that someone's going to pick it up is completely just BS, right? And that's, I want more people to see the reality of what the music business is, because it will help them actually have a clear vision of what they really want to do. Because if you don't want to make TikTok videos, if you don't want to be on Instagram every day, if you don't want to have a YouTube channel, you're not going to have a music career unless you're just playing coffee shops at a local level and doing traditional promotion. But those are my thoughts.
Absolutely, Chai. I mean, I disagree on the Taylor has nothing to do with talent, but like, no, absolutely. I think you only invest what you can afford to lose, right? I mean, like, just don't expect a single dime back. The way I see, if I get money back, great. That's more money I can put into this, like, right? Because it's my passion, right? So I
Yeah.
want my songs to be good. I want them to be heard. That's the goal, right? But yeah, you like a lot. And like one of my co-writers, she was like, "Oh, I need money, so you have to get this producer put for sync." I'm like, if you need money, why would you invest in a producer? Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. Like, because you're spending money you don't know that you're going to get back. I was telling her, it's
Yeah,
hard to get a sync cut. Has any one of us in the room gotten a sync cut? No. Like, why would
I
we
have,
invest money?
but
Yay! Congrats.
the thing
Yeah.
is sync is the new, I can't make it in the traditional music industry, so now I'm going to go to sync. So everybody is like, sync is the new way to make money. Here's the thing. Your competition are the major labels because they want their songs synced too, right? So if you want to have sync, you need to be producing at the exact same master quality that a major record company is, because that is literally your competition right now. Because it's so hard, like radio's dying, like terrestrial radio is dying. It's very hard to get songs on the radio. The only songs that are actually making like royalties that actually pay any bills are hits. So if you have an album cut these days, it used to be if you had an album cut, you could be set. Album cuts now make jack shit. There's a writer who wrote 4 songs on Ariana Grande's album. Ariana Grande is huge. The royalty check for 4 songs on her album was $4,000. Think about that.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I don't know if anyone of you follows the 100%ers. They're an organization that are fighting for songwriter rights. Because it's really insane, like the songwriters are getting screwed over so bad. They don't get the single.
Totally.
Yeah, that's really a bad situation. Yeah.
Yeah, the way I see most artists, like the most, I guess, feasible, duplicatable path I see like independent artists taking is you're basically focused on building a community around your basically your music brand and your artistry. So people like Leah McHenry or Peter Hollins or Matthew Fawcett. These are people that with Peter Hollins, he kind of did everything by using covers. First to 11 is another band that's doing it. So you're using covers in YouTube to kind of build up an audience, and then they monetize that audience through things like Patreon, building a community around them. Leah McHenry, like she makes multiple 6 figures from her music, and it's through building up this kind of Celtic fantasy world around her music. And she runs Facebook ads to get people into that community. And then like someone like Matthew Fawcett, like he monetizes his, again, builds that community around his music, and then he monetizes his audience by like he'll do like in-home concerts for people, which he charges like thousands of dollars for. Other artists will like take people on their like super fans on cruises where they pay $4,000 or $5,000 for that. So it's about like making an audience, then you monetize that audience in a way that's coherent with your brand, but beyond just like selling your music. It's selling experiences, it's selling merch,
Yeah,
community, other things like that.
that's my point, is that it's not just the music,
Right.
right? So if you want to have a music career, you have to have a marketing career. And a lot of musicians I know have very little interest in marketing or doing a TikTok or doing a Patreon or doing
Well,
like
no one
any
will
of
be able
that
to
stuff,
do
right?
TikTok much longer. I heard it's getting
Maybe,
banned.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
not.
it was passed. I think actually, I think the president approved it. It got passed in the House. I don't know.
Yeah, last week.
I know TikTok's gonna fight it, but it's
Well,
already been voted on.
here's the thing though. Regardless of what the government does, all of these platforms will go away someday, right? So the key, if you are marketing your own stuff, is you need to own your audience.
Build
So
an email list.
you need to own your email list. You need to know who's downloading your stuff, because if all of your fans are on TikTok and TikTok does die, you have nothing at that point, right?
Mhm.
So would you rather have 1,000 diehard fans or 2 million streams? I would pick 1,000 diehard fans over 2 million streams, because streams don't equal fans and streams don't equal money, right? So it's all about marketing and things like that. But for me, what at-home songwriting is about is none of this matters if your songs suck.
Right.
And there's a lot of people trying to market shitty music out there. And I know, and we're not talking about like, I think Bob Dylan music is shitty. I'm talking about like, it's really like, it's not good, right?
Well, yeah,
Like,
good marketing makes a bad product fail faster.
what's that?
I
Bad
said
or
good marketing makes a bad product fail faster.
right, right. So like, the thing is don't waste your money on marketing if if the quality is not there, is the point of that, right? Because you want to put the money into investing into pushing something that's ready to be marketed.
Exactly.
And most people are not there, right? Most people are not where they could be, but that's why people like Reagan, me, like, we're here to help you get to that level if that's what your goal is. But sorry, I'm on a tangent tonight. I'm on a roll.
No, actually, I'm actually really loving it, Chad. This is the best session I've attended. I really love this. Like we're going, it's so
What a
interactive. Like
coincidence.
Yeah.
I feel like I really want to like I've
I've
only
never
like
heard you
casually
like this,
attended.
Chad. You're usually more laid back. I'm so happy that you are joining the rest of us in our frustration and pissed offness.
You know what?
I'll take
Yeah.
credit for that, even though I probably have nothing to do with it. But since I'm here, I'll take credit.
No, you know what? There's a lot of like, we're fed a lot of bullshit all day long, right?
Yep.
We're fed just a stream of like crap, and I see too many people buy into some of the
Yep.
stuff that they're not focusing on the right things. And I think you have to like really just stop and think of like, you see all these like ads for people who say they can get you 1 million streams on Spotify, right? Like, if they really have the secret to getting millions upon millions of streams on Spotify, why do they need to sell a class about it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're making money on the class, not the trick. But we could probably go on for hours, but everybody, thanks so much for joining. Reagan, remind us again about your challenge that's starting, and then I also want to remind you to join us Saturday for the song challenge, song share. That's going to be fun too. So
Yeah.
Oh,
So
can you say a bit about that? Sorry, Chad, can you say a bit about this? What's the song challenge? And also, Reagan, I asked if you had like a portfolio and price catalog for all the services you do.
yeah, I'm actually in the middle of constructing that page. I don't have it finished yet, but you can just like send me an email, let me know what your thoughts are, what you want to work on, and we can work out details that way. My email is just reagan@orpheusaudioacademy.com. And then as far as my challenge, yeah, so it's through the month of May. It's just my 30 days finish more music challenge. So the goal is just to spend 1 hour a day working on your music. And so if you sign up for that, you'll get kind of little tips and encouragement from me. You'll get access to like a little Facebook group where you can ask questions and stuff. And then I'll be live streaming myself, and you can, just have me on the background where you're producing, just so you have that kind of moral support, or you can ask questions and I can answer that way too. So that's kind of what that challenge is about.
and my challenge that we're listening to on Saturday is I wrote lyrics that people are writing music to. And you can write or you can upload your recording into the online community at athomesongwritingcourses.com, and we're going to listen to them on Saturday. We have like over 18 songs already submitted, so yeah.
Sorry to
So
make your
those-
guys' life more challenging. So many
No, it's okay.
challenges.
A lot of challenges. No, it's all about learning, right? Like
Yep.
people need practice, people need to be pushed, and people need honest ways to do it. So they're not, as you can tell, I won't blow smoke up your ass. So, so everybody, thanks so much for joining. I will see you on Saturday. Reagan, hopefully a lot of people will see you in your challenge over the whole month.
Yeah.
And then lots of stuff coming up. But Reagan, will you come back and do a live mixing session? Can you share your screen and like show us some of this stuff?
Yeah, if we can do that through Zoom, for sure I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I will see everybody soon. And Reagan, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank
you guys
you,
are
Chad.
all wonderful people, and it was
Thank
great
you.
getting to talk
Thank
to you guys.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Chad.
right.
You are the source from whence all wisdom emanates.
I don't know about that, but something's resonating from me. Bye, everybody.